I'm Claudia Catania, and you're listening to Playing on Air. You are about to hear a new play written and directed by John Patrick Shanley and featuring Carol Kane and Scarlett Strallen. John's written about 24 full-length plays as well as films and earned an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for Moonstruck. He won the Pulitzer Prize and Tony Award for Best Play for Doubt. Carol Kane is not only a theater actor, but an Academy Award nominee for Best Actress in Hester Street, and she played in unforgettable films like Dog Day Afternoon, Annie Hall, and The Princess Bride. On TV, she was Simca in Taxi, winning 2 Emmy Awards, was a regular on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and she currently plays Palia in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Scarlett Strallen has played leading roles in London's West End, where she's won 2 Olivier Award nominations, for Josephine in HMS Pinafore and for Kathy Selden in Singing in the Rain. On Broadway, she starred in A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, A Chorus Line, Mary Poppins, and Travesties. And now, here's Reverie by John Patrick Shanley.
Excuse me.
What?
Am I disturbing you?
No, not at all.
Why are you here?
Do I need a reason to be in church?
You're right, you don't. But
what?
you were at the wedding, weren't you?
Yeah.
Aren't you going to the reception?
No. It wouldn't be appropriate. I didn't know them.
Oh, that's so sweet.
What?
To attend a stranger's wedding?
You think so? Well, I don't know. It's like a bit of a free show, right? That little flower girl who didn't want to throw her flower petals, and then, to top it all off, the groom dropped the ring.
I know.
I couldn't believe it. It was too perfect.
I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. What with nerves and the finality of the occasion? All those vows?
I know, I was married in this church.
Really?
Yeah. I'm visiting my sister, so I thought I'd take a look. I wasn't going to come in. Churches give me the creeps. Then I heard this beautiful singing, like a invitation. And a young girl was getting married just like I did. So I just had to, sit down and take it in.
Is your husband...
He's with my brother-in-law watching golf.
Oh, nice.
I suppose. He's a pain in the ass. It's a spell, Marriage is a spell. Why are you here?
I was the woman you heard singing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Dear friends of yours?
No, I'm a professional. It's how I make my living.
But the way you sang.
It's a very beautiful song.
I can't believe you didn't know them.
It's better when I don't know them.
It is?
When you know the people, you sing to them. You sing about them. But when they're strangers, you sing to God on behalf of the human race.
Really? You do that?
I try to.
So you're a professional, the job's done, the wedding's over. Why are you still here?
I don't know. Who can resist the power of an empty church?
The power?
It's just you and God.
You think so?
Don't you?
What do I know?
Why else would you linger in an empty church?
Honestly, I was enjoying not listening to my husband. To be sincere, I can still hear your voice. It's like a snowfall. You made me feel hope. And that old holiness that I used to know.
What's your name?
Rosemary.
You have a very beautiful face.
No, I don't.
You do.
I don't care. Sorry. I'm a little blunt.
My name's Jean.
You married?
No,
I didn't think so. You want me to go, don't you?
how did you know that?
I know people.
Yes, I kept waiting for you to go.
Why?
I was wanting a moment. I'm going to sound silly. I want to be alone with God.
Really? I'm not sure I'd want that.
Why not?
I'm not the nicest person. You want to hear something funny?
Sure.
I used to make believe that my husband was God. I even prayed to him. He didn't know. It was my little secret. Made me happy to think that I had married God himself. No one knew but me.
That's pretty crazy.
I was a newlywed, and it worked for a while. Then I had to stop because the sex was a disaster.
Really?
Well, you can't go at it with God. He's got all the cards. It was a struggle, you know? The whole thing was too unconflicted. A woman needs some friction. This woman, anyway.
I think I know what you mean, but I can't bear conflict.
My husband and I get along because we don't get along too well. There's always some issue that can only be settled in bed.
Doesn't sound very romantic.
Oh, man, it's giving me a pain.
I've been thinking about marriage.
Theoretically, or?
No, there's a guy and he'd like to, but I just don't know.
Is that why you wanted to be alone here?
I don't want to make a mistake.
I get it. It's funny, when you sing, you seem so sure of things.
Yeah, that's why I love to sing. It connects me. I only want to get married if it connects me.
To what?
Something bigger than me?
You don't need a man for that. Let me tell you something you may not know. Today, when the groom dropped the ring, that's marriage. That's when the whole thing became a marriage.
Why do you say that?
You have to get dirt on your dress, you know. The white light you see in your soul when it's just you and God, that's just a white light. I work in a restaurant. I see all kinds of people. It's not like that song you sang. People are the worst.
Not all people.
No, not all. Sing me a little bit of that song you sang.
I can't. I need an accompanist.
Come on. Ave.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Maria, gratia plena, Maria, gratia plena, Ave, Ave Dominus, Dominus tecum.
So beautiful. Pure. Like that little girl with the flower petals. She didn't want to get him dirty, right?
You going?
Yeah, I'll leave you alone with God. Just remember, you can't marry him. Ave Maria. Watch out.
You just heard Reverie, written and directed by John Patrick Shanley. It featured Carol Kane as Rose and Scarlett Strallen as Jean. Franz Schubert's Ave Maria was sung today by Scarlett Strallen. Greetings out there. I'm Claudia Catania, the founder of Playing on Air, and its host today. Whether you're first-time listeners or our long-standing audio fans, I enthusiastically invite you to a conversation about Reverie with the artists who just recorded it.
Oh, my name is Carol Kane, and I am honored to play the role of Rose in Reverie by maybe my favorite playwright, John Patrick Shanley.
Hello, I'm Scarlett Strallen. I had the pleasure of reading Jean today by definitely my most favorite playwright.
That's right, definitely mine too. I don't know why I was trying to be coy, but my favorite playwright for a million years.
This is just such a coincidence because I'm John Patrick Shanley. No, I'm not my favorite playwright, but it's nice to echo such lovely compliments.
Is this the first professional reading you've heard of this play?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
But I wrote it for a friend's wedding.
Oh, really?
She called me up and asked me if I would write a little play for their wedding.
Wow.
And so I wrote this, and they, not the principals, but friends of the family performed it at the wedding. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. Carol Kane and Scarlett Strallen, what first crossed your mind when you read John Patrick Shanley's play, Reverie?
I wondered if you were in my head with certain lines there. The reason I love to sing, it connects me, absolutely sort of shot me through the heart. I could not believe that you wrote that.
Well, I just thought it was beautiful writing, and I was just so happy to get to say the words and hope to say them in a way that would speak of what John wanted them to speak of.
John, you wrote a very well-known major full-length play, Doubt, which explores the emotional side of doubt as well as the emotional need for certainty. Scarlett, Carol, to what extent do either of you see doubt playing an emotional chord in this short play, Reverie, as well?
The wrestling with faith, the hope that it's true, but in my character's case, I guess the feeling that it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
In my character, just the doubt of whether or not to go through with one of the biggest decisions that one can make, and really being racked with indecision.
I guess, when I wrote Doubt or I wrote Reverie, for me, theater is my church. And so, when I ask fellow congregants to repeat the same things over and over again, which is what we do in the theater, it's an attempt to call something down into the room that's bigger than we are. And that's referred to in Reverie, and that's definitely part of what's going on in Doubt. The relationship between spirituality and beauty as it connects to us in our essence. That's something that I'm very attracted to.
Yeah, it made me think about, just as an artist, how when I was younger, your belief in artistry and beauty carrying you along, that's, for me, stronger when I was younger, and I miss it.
I think the wounds that you carry now from the life that you've lived are like the mouths of organ pipes and really allow you to voice in a more profound and varied way the experience of what it is to be alive, the music of that.
John, you thread so many topics through this one short play. It's funny, but it's moving and flashes on marriage and fear of commitment and doubt, certainty, faith, mundane, enraptured even. A good short as chock full as this one can't be easy to construct. I mean, am I right? Can you explain what attracts you to the short form? I know it's not the money.
It's my favorite form is the short form play. And if I could, I would. That's pretty much all I would do, I think. Both because you can maintain an intensity and a casualness at the same time that the formal requirements of a longer narrative don't permit. So I like doing them. And I like working with a lot of different people and seeing the colors that it brings out of them. It's a great form. And money doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. It's such a distraction from the truth of what it is to be alive. It really is true. You're born naked and poor, and you die the same way.
I sometimes think the short play just doesn't get no respect. Of course, there's exceptions, but I wonder how to nourish it in the United States, where it's not as common and accessible.
I think there's a kind of obstacle that's been created that stands between the public and the short play. That if you were to ask me, for instance, hey, you want to see a 15-minute play? I'd be like, yeah, anytime. So you say you want to see a 2.5-hour play? I'm like, let me look at my phone. It's a different demand. And that's part of what I mean by the lightheartedness, the lightness of doing the short form is, I can sit and be quiet for 10 or 20 minutes. That's easy. More than that, and I'm going to get squirmy unless this is really good. And it's nice to try to make something that's really good that is 10 or 15 minutes long. And maybe it's more doable to do something that's fine, that's 10 or 15 minutes long, than artificially to make something that's long.
Speaking of emotion in music, the music of Ave Maria draws Rose into the church where she was married. Can anyone talk about how Schubert's music, and I suppose the biblical words, serve the characters and the play itself?
Well, Scarlett, what's your relationship with sacred music?
Very, very little, actually, I'm ashamed to say. And I've never sung this before. But somehow I feel like we all sort of know it, don't we, without knowing it. And we all know sort of what's being said without understanding. And it just hits you always. Doesn't matter who's singing it and what key. It was the most perfect one to choose for this, I think.
And it's Schubert.
And it's Schubert.
You know, I mean, who was no slouch.
No.
Outside of church.
You did it, it's you, which is saying a lot.
Thank you.
John, why did you name this short play Reverie?
Well, a reverie is to stop for a minute and reflect, usually tinged with a spiritual feeling. And I think, one of the things that makes life worthwhile is reviewing your life, is periodically stopping from what you're doing, the having and getting, and just saying to yourself, looking over your shoulder and going, what just happened? Well, my life just happened. Maybe I should take a look over my shoulder and see what my life looks like today. And how does that connect to the sky? And how does that connect to the mud? And those questions all, if you allow yourself to ask them, can make your life richer experience.
Mm-hmm. Jean is finally entirely alone in the church. John's script indicates that she cries. Can any of you talk about that choice a little?
About which choice? I'm sorry.
when Jean, the character Jean, is alone in the church where she
she's
sang.
finally alone with God, which, depending on your persuasion, is to finally be alone with yourself, your own experience of life as it relates to the physical and metaphysical universe that you inhabit. And those moments come upon you. Sometimes you attempt to force them, manufacture them, and have an experience that you're not having. And sometimes they come to you. And I like to think, one of my favorite places in the world is an empty church. And in a way, one of my least favorite places is a full church. Carol, you ever wander into a church by accident or anything?
By accident, did you say? I wandered into some... Actually, what just came in my mind is I went to this school called Professional Children's School on 60th Street between Amsterdam and West End. And on the corner was a big formal church. And when we used to cut school, we used to hide out in the church. That's where we went, I must tell you. And I've wandered into a couple churches, but I'm, that's not my religion. I'm a Jewish girl. But that doesn't mean I haven't wandered into some beautiful churches, and also churches around the world that are so exquisite.
And when you go into a church, do you have a feeling of truancy?
I always have a feeling.
I have a full-on impulsion. I went into one just before we came here that I'd never ever seen before on 29th, that cathedral there.
Oh.
But if I pass a church, I usually, if I've got some time, I always go in. I feel
Why
the
is
same.
that?
Nothing like an empty church. It's very, very strange. And I'm not particularly religious in any way either, but it just feels holy in a far grander way.
Let
than I
alone
can
the
explain.
fact that they're cool in the summer and New York City doesn't have enough public benches.
Well, yes, and to find somewhere quiet in this city is a hard thing to do.
But it's extraordinary. Well, you three are a treasure.
Thank you.
Now, did anybody want to say something more?
I mean, I just want to say that I think that Playing on Air is one of the few platforms where people can do this kind of work right now, which used to be thought of as the radio play, and now as translated to other media that allow you to walk around on your headset and listen to whatever you want to listen to, and that it's so intimate to have actors whispering in your ear and creating a whole world that you get to imagine whenever you are receptive and free. And that's, I think, very important to me. I think it's very important for a lot of people. It's kind of a floating theater.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for
Thank you,
creating it.
Claudia.
Thank you. May I use that quote?
Please.
What an honor to have you three here.
Honored to
Thanks
be
for
here.
having us. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Playing on Air, great American short audio plays with great American artists. Theme music, Tom Cochan. Recording and sound design, John Kilgore. Franz Schubert's Ave Maria was sung today by Scarlett Strallen and played on clarinet by Finn Kilgore. Playing on Air is distributed by PRX Public Radio Exchange, and you can also hear over 150 Playing on Air shorts on playingonair.org. I'm your host, Claudia Catania, the founder and artistic director of Playing on Air. Thanks for listening.